loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.
Welcome to Making It Last podcast. I'm your host, Noreen Daly, and it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, but with other people. I'm going to be having a conversation with Christine and Javier, and I'm pausing because I really don't want to mess their last name up because it's so beautiful when they say it. So I want you to say it.
Llerena.
There you go. There. No, I'm not even going to try it right now, no. But I'm going to learn it. Welcome. Thanks for joining me and having this conversation. Now, Christine and Javier are authors. They have written a book called Boundless Love. Google it, order it, support the people. So, Christina and Javier, why should couples engage in premarital counseling? Because there's some couples that think that if we've been together for an extended period, let's say for years, in their minds they're saying, I basically know this person. It's just a matter of me then making this public commitment. So, talk to me.
Yes, and that's a great question, and thank you. We're so blessed to be here with you. I think that question is the big elephant in the room. And since Christina and I have been facilitating over 1,000 couples in pre-marriage retreats, I see a lot of couples that don't want to rock the boat. They don't want things to come out to the surface. They think that by not talking about what's happening, things are going to go away. And it's very important that it comes down to a Jesus moment where you have a conversation of differences.
Yeah, thanks again, Noreen. It's lovely to be here with you. I just wanted to also add that, I think there's a lot of fear, to be honest, of going into any kind of premarital, is it counseling or retreat or workshop, or they have even assessments. We do an assessment around just looking at your strengths and challenge areas. And I think there's fear. I think it takes courage sometimes to ask the hard questions or to even make yourself vulnerable, right, to your soon-to-be spouse or partner. And I think that, it's an honest fear. I think it's natural, but in life, we have to push through that, right? Because on the other side of that, that's where the gold is. That's where the treasure is, where we can really develop a deeper trust and intimacy and better know ourselves and our partner. And I think that's the lasting marriage. It's going to carry you, that knowing is going to carry you through the ups and the downs. And we all know it's not all what they say, rainbows and unicorns in marriage. There's a lot of rocky times.
How is there, I'm sure different studies would have been done, but is there something that says it is quite likely that if you successfully go through this period of premarital counseling, that it heightens your chances of, not making the statistics of being another divorce couple? What's the correlation between that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the latest numbers is 60%, right?
No, it's actually it's well over 60% now
60%.
that have a less chance. So they were even saying that at one point, depending, because there's such a variety of pre-marriage interventions, but it less than it really lessens your chances, and it is like a preventative medicine almost, right? It's about doing something ahead of time, like going to the doctor or getting, good nutrition or activity, exercise, versus waiting until you find out you have diabetes or high blood pressure, right? So you're actually taking those vitamins and taking care of yourself beforehand.
Absolutely. And one thing I wanted to add is for all the beautiful men out there listening, we do not know how to talk to ladies.
Mm-hmm.
We think we know, but we don't know. We don't know how to talk to them. We don't know how to listen to them. So I think when you go through any type of pre-marriage counseling or any pre-marriage retreat, that's one of the key points that Christina and I touch on. How we have an effective communication style. How can we actively listen? How can we pray together? How can we argue together in a good way? So there's things that we are teaching. And for me, I learned the hard way. And I learned that we just don't know. We don't know how to talk to ladies, and we don't know how to listen to them.
Mm.
And if you can enhance that, imagine the channel of communication that you're going to have leaving this pre-marriage counseling or retreat that you're going to be attending. It's huge.
Is there a recommended period for this counseling to take place, or is this directly connected to the period that the couple would have been together?
I think ideally, most faiths recommend 6 to 12 months before marriage to do some kind of preparation spiritually. So I think, if you're engaged, I think it's an opening or a deepened commitment that you're planning on getting married. And I think if you want to do it well, it's wise to invest. I think it's very easy, and we see this with a lot of couples in our retreats, that, the confusion of the difference between the marriage and the wedding. And I think, we have a lot of excitement and celebration, and I understand the joy and how families love to get together, and it's a big moment, it's a big milestone, but it's one day. And so I think it's really important to balance that preparation, not just around, your menu and the invitation list, but also, what kind of relationship in a marriage do you really want to create together?
Is it that you've had a couple that you probably recommended, say, hey, this issue came up, it's not an issue that can just be dealt with within this time period. Maybe it is that you should consider delaying the marriage, delaying the wedding, but probably they didn't. Or maybe it is that they shouldn't have gotten married, but they did. Has that ever happened? And if so, is it that it usually follows through what you suggested, or is it that on rare occasions, maybe it is that it actually worked out, even though you probably thought it wouldn't have?
That's a great question. I think the short answer is yes. We've seen all kinds of scenarios.
Okay.
One is which we run faith-based retreats. So we've had couples where one individual doesn't share, it really comes out into the open that they're not on the same page in terms of their faith. And so that has been a situation because of that kind of fleshing out, or that sort of, reconciliation. They realize, wow, we really need to step back. And in that case, we're not aware whether or not they went through, but they did delay the wedding.
Okay.
And these are very rare cases, but our testimony or our belief is that is a blessing. If someone does delay or recognizes that maybe this isn't the right time, or really a healthy continuance of the relationship, like maybe we really don't share the same values. We see that as excellent, because that means that you're preventing pain, right? It's better to know now rather than later. But the vast majority, I think, are blown away by how much they thought they knew about their spouse and realized they didn't.
Javier?
And I think that, that is the point. The awareness is what we build, and we help them bring awareness when we do the retreats. And and also the awareness of not feeling guilty for speaking your mind or sharing what you're feeling with your partner. is creating that awareness to feel good and really speak your mind, because that's the moment that everything, the cards should be, line up in the table and really have that conversation. That's the moment that we create what we call psychological safety for the couples to really put the cards on the table and have a healthy conversation to really say, hey, this is the decision that we're gonna make together. Because I tell couples, this is bigger than a mortgage. This is bigger than anything that you are gonna commit to, and you should speak and become aware and speak your differences and really commit the right way.
I know you've been enjoying the conversation, but we're going to take a little break and get a word from our sponsor.
Does your business lack branding? Having difficulty realizing your vision? Look no further. Splinth Brand Design Consultancy specializes in developing personal and business brands. Services include strategic management, website creation, social media branding, and more. Visit them online at www.wearesplint.com. Splinth, the brand you need to succeed.
Usually they say, and communication books will say that women are more interested in seeing how the relationship will work. In terms of people's attitude towards premarital counseling, with your experience, is it that usually females are the ones more open to it, or is it that it doesn't really matter? Most times both male or female, or is it that it's the females usually?
I think you're right. I still think it is gendered. I think that a lot of the females are maybe a little bit more lighthearted or open around having those kind of more emotionally based conversations. Mm-hmm. But I've noticed that through the years, we've been doing this now over 15 years, that I think that the men are opening up more. And I think if they come at it from a faith-based perspective, they're just as equally invested. I just think their style of communicating and the way perhaps their perspective or they approach it is just different. It's just a different kind of approach. But I do think that the women can be leaders in a way of getting things started, but I think a lot of the men quickly go there. They do. It's definitely, if I compare it to, for example, my parents' generation, even my, in my generation and my kids' generation, I see differences around, the men's sort of willingness and openness around just being emotionally intelligent, vulnerable, and open. Yeah.
Javier, you agree with what she just said?
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I think we're seeing a lot of couples, especially the men, showing interest and really participating and want to make the best out of it. One thing that I wanted to add, when that happens, when we observe in the retreats that we have men and women all in, beautiful things happen, right? Mm-hmm. When we see that the ladies are doing all the work and they're pulling teeth and they're trying to make that happen, we can clearly see that eventually things are gonna go a different direction because their men are not participating, and you can feel it. You can see the energy. So, but it's so beautiful when you see both of them really committing to the process and being open. It just magic happens. And I think the experience that we have is all the retreats that we facilitated, there's so much magic happening when the two are engaged, fully engaged.
As we're wrapping up, any final thoughts on what then can be done, even in terms of society, for us to have our young people coming up and when you're considering marriage to actually be open to this process?
Yeah, I think, now generations face, more of, a divorce rate, or, millennials are not getting married as frequently. They're cohabitating. or they grew up in families that were blended, that, perhaps they had step parents or whatnot. And I think, there's perhaps more understanding now that you do have a huge stake, and you're a huge player or character or, primal cause around how well your marriage goes, right? It's like you can't put that on another person. And I think that the good news is that, as a society, I do believe we're getting more and more aware. Maybe we are learning a little bit the hard way, right? Sometimes we have to feel the burn, per se, and then we kind of go at it from a different angle. But ultimately, I think the encouragement is that if you're in it, we always joke, like, if you're in it to win it, right? If you're really in marriage for the long haul, it really is not a threat. It's just a help. There's nothing to hide. It's really just a support. And for us, we participated in premarital counseling, and there were definitely challenges there that came up later in our marriage. But I'm so grateful that we did that, because at least we had a sounding board or a base, right, to work off of.
Nice.
And to have some communication in our history that we could build upon and say, wow, well, this is how we dealt with it then, and how do we want to approach it now? And this is what works well for us, or I think this doesn't work for us. So the more you can have those ongoing, deeper conversations, the more you're going to be able to leverage them and really pivot when times do get rough.
Yeah. And I wanted to add that what makes relationship flourish is the amount of trust that you have with each other. And when you do a premarital retreat or any type of counseling, you're going to start building that trust. You're going to start learning the skills to build that trust. And I always tell couples, are you going to a road trip without a map? Are you going to turn off your phone and not put any type of GPS applications to lead you there? So it's essential that you know where you're going and who's your co-pilot next to you. It's so important to do that. The benefits, like Christina said, I think marriage, if you have a faith-based marriage and you work on your marriage, it will definitely challenge you to become a better person every day. And it really enhance and it really open up and be free with that person. I think Christina is the only person in my life that I'm fully open. She knows everything about me. And I have no shame telling her everything that I think about, even though she thinks it's really weird. But I feel so free telling her, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling, without really having a feeling of she's judging me, a feeling of expressing myself and feeling love at the same time.
Yeah. Thank you so much. An excellent note to end on. A man expressing just how open he feels with his wife, and his wife there endorsing all of that by how she's responding to what he's saying. Thank you, Christina and Javier. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. And I
Love
trust
it.
Yes. And I trust my listeners. I'm sure that you heard not just something that is in a book, but you heard from a couple's personal experience. This was Making It Last podcast. I'm your host, Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Making it last is all I care to do. You loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.